Hey guys, in this video I want to share 5 tips that I think will help you perform at your best in your next medical job interview. I've been through a lot of interviews. These days I actually mostly sit on the other side of the table as the person actually doing the interviewing, and I can tell you, it's very clear what makes one candidate stand out from all the rest. So this video is a combination of all the things that I've found to be most useful for myself when I'm actually applying for a position, as well as a number of things that I've found myself being really impressed by when I have to interview other people for a position. Okay, let's get into it. Tip number 1, understand once you have reached the stage of the interview in your job application, it is the interview performance that really counts. Your resume, your titles, your previous experience, everything that's on paper. That's what's got you this far. Now, what these people want, the people who are interviewing you, is to get to know you, to see whether they like you, and to learn whether or not they can trust you. So, do the basics. Dress appropriately. Be there early. Prepare. Show them that you can be accountable. Show them that you value their time. Smile. Show your appreciation frequently. Do your best to relax. Remember, the people on the other side of the table are just other humans. Well, in most cases. Tip number 2, be prepared to respond to the question,
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Once in an interview where I was applying for a position, I actually got completely stumped by this question because the people who asked me the question actually already knew me. In fact, they knew me really well. It's important to realize that most interviews are standardized these days. That means that the interviewers have to ask each candidate the exact same questions, even if they kind of know the answer to some of them. The idea is that this makes it fairer for all the candidates who are applying for the job, regardless of whether they're internal applicants or external applicants. Nevertheless, I was so thrown by this question that I just sat there saying nothing for about 15 seconds. And then I think I ended up starting talking about how I was born in New Zealand. This is not what they wanted to hear. So after that interview, I went home, I did my research, and I made sure that the next time I had to sit in an interview, I had a way better answer. The best answer that I have found for this question went something like this. Well, as you can see from my resume, now in about 60 seconds or less, give a brief chronological list of all the qualifications and experience that you have that is relevant to this job. And that's what brings me here today, and that is why I'm so excited about this opportunity. The reason why I think this answer is so great is that firstly, it reminds the interviewers of the most impressive aspects of your resume. And secondly, it refocuses the conversation on the opportunity that lies ahead for both parties in this conversation. Tip number 3, be prepared to respond to the question,
what do you feel makes you suitable for this position?
Here's the best answer I've heard for this question. Well, as I understand it, you're looking for someone who... Now go through each key selection criteria and briefly summarize, why you meet that requirement. Is an exceptional dog walker? Well, you've seen my level 4 qualification. Has outstanding grooming skills? At least 4 of my previous clients have won first prize on show. And has exemplary waste management skills. I never leave home without it. The last time I interviewed for a position, I actually took a paper copy of the position description with me with the criteria highlighted, and I made a point of actually going down point by point and mentioning something in relation to each one. The reason why I find this answer so great is that it keeps what you have to say completely relevant to the position and therefore shows what a great fit you are for that position. Tip number 4, be prepared to respond to the question,
what is it about our organisation that made you apply for the job?
In answering this question, you really have a great opportunity to demonstrate that you've done some research, which from their perspective is a sign that you value their time. Also, it's a great opportunity to express some genuine praise for their organisation and make them feel good about themselves. Well, the fact is, I've been waiting for an opportunity like this to come up for a long time. Gatsby has a pretty amazing reputation in the canine community as a pooch with very high standards. If the organisation has any stated values, which most of them do, make sure that you've researched them and that you actually know them. And recognise that this might be a really good time to reference at least one of them that resonates with you and tell them why that's the case. I love your motto. It pretty much sums up my approach to life. The idea of working in a place with that kind of approach just really excites me. Just remember, compliments have to be genuine. If they feel that you're expressing some kind of insincere flattery, you actually risk coming across as untrustworthy. Tip number 5, be prepared to respond to behavioural questions. Of all the tips, this is probably the most important one. Behavioural questions are questions in which you are asked to recall a specific example in the past where you've demonstrated a particular behaviour that's relevant to the position.
Tell us about a time in the past when you
Had to respond to criticism.
made a mistake,
Had to deal with conflict.
needed to drive change or show leadership,
Did something you were proud of.
were faced with a challenging communications situation.
These are some of the most common themes of behavioural questions, and the reason why these questions are asked in interviews is because these days it's reasonably well recognised that the best determinant of your future behaviour is your past behaviour. So if they can get a sense of how you've behaved in certain situations in the past, they'll get a pretty good sense of how you'll behave in similar situations in the future within this new job. What I've noticed is that in response to these questions, the poorest candidates say nothing. The intermediate candidates respond in kind of abstract or general terms. Look, I think the best way to deal with conflict is with a direct approach, clear language, and an empathic stance. And the best candidates respond with specific examples. I'll give you an example. Or stories that follow a simple 4-part format. Situation. One day, early in my dog walking career, I was walking one of my clients across the park when an unrestrained pooch approached us from the playground area. Task. This was the first time I'd encountered this situation, so it took me a moment to refer back mentally to my level 4 certification study notes. Action. Before I knew it, my training had just kicked in and I was able to increase the distance between the hounds and then engage the other dog's carer in a conversation where we were able to establish the needs of our respective canines. And result. Within a few minutes, we'd arrived at a place where we actually agreed to gradually socialise our respective pets with each other so that over time, they would be able to interact in a safe and respectful manner. To effectively prepare for behavioural questions like these, I would find 3 or 4 true stories from your past that effectively address at least 2 of these areas each. For example, you may have one story that demonstrates your skills not only in conflict resolution, but also in terms of staying calm under pressure, and also in terms of engaging in challenging communication. So if you then get a question in any one of these domains, you can pull out this story and use it as an example of how you performed in the past. Okay, bonus tip. For those of you who are still watching, I've got one last tip to share with you, and I am not exaggerating when I say that this tip was the thing that really revolutionized my actual performance in the interviews. What is it? Practice. Wait, don't leave. There's a twist. Practice with your pets. Everyone knows that it's useful to practice these things, but if you set yourself the task of practicing with another human, there's a good chance that you're going to find that idea so intimidating that you won't do it at all. Practicing with your pets is the perfect compromise. Now, obviously, you're not going to get that kind of detailed feedback that you'll get if you practice with a colleague or a friend or your partner, but in my opinion, the most important thing is that you just practice saying the words. Practice telling your stories. Practice getting them sounding kind of smooth, detailed, but not too lengthy. Don't try and memorize your answers to any questions. Just get super familiar with talking through them so that you sound really natural and clear when you're under the spotlight. Now, if you don't have a pet, just pause the video here and practice your interview with Gatsby. Guys, I hope you found that useful. Comments, questions, any other top tips that you have for interviews, put them down below. If you disagree with me, if you have another opinion, I'd love to hear that sort of stuff. Put it in the comments. My name's Hayden Richards, this is Comms Lab, and I will see you in the next video.